Hi everybody, I hope you are doing great and welcome to this practice session number 5 of English grammar. This is part of a series of English Windows Online learning videos and practice sessions that we are organized to get students, second year baccalaureate students in particular, ready and well prepared for their national exam, especially in the grammar section. Guys, we are right now at the case number 5 of the passive voice. Previously, we dealt with 4 cases, with 4 practice sessions. We dealt at first with the declarative, dealing with declarative sentences, how to transfer them from active to the passive. We dealt with sentences that contain modal verbs. We dealt in the case number 3 basically with a statement that contain verbs with 2 objects, and we've dealt recently with statements that contain imperative sentences. Basically, we dealt with imperative statements, okay? I mean, that contain a verb expressing maybe an order, request, or anything of that sort. Today, the case number 5 will be dealing with something that we call impersonal passive. What do we mean by impersonal passive, right? Generally, impersonal passive, guys, are special statements, mostly formal statements, a formal way of reporting what, people say, or what, the unspecified maybe group of people, report. Basically, this kind of statements are mostly used in, in our daily life, and also formally in the in news broadcasting. When you watch or listen to the news, right, you will hear a lot of such statements. People say that, people believe that, people, assume that, people think that, and so on and so forth. So such statements are basically referred to or described as impersonal passive statement. So today, guys, we are going to check and see how, again, we are supposed to, make the transfer from the active to the passive of such statement successful and correct in terms of the changes that occur basically at the level of structure and specifically at the level of the verb form. Okay, guys, so if you're ready, let me suggest 2 ways again. Okay, so remember that these special cases are a little bit different from the previous first early cases in which we dealt with declarative sentences and so on. We have the 5 we shared our 5 steps of dealing with the case and so on. And I think at this moment right now you should have learned some basics related to the parts of speech, related to the the verb to be, to the changes that occur at the level of the verb and so on. So these are things you should just be aware that there are changes that should take place at the level of structure, at the level of word order, at the level of the verb to be, the verb in general, past participle. All these things should be taken into consideration. Subjects, objects. These are the notions that we should have learned so far. Now I suggest to deal with impersonal passive and transferring impersonal passive statements from active to passive. You just need to follow. We have again 2 options. Just as we have seen last time when we dealt with imperative statements and we had 2 choices and it's okay. So it's the same thing here. It's the same case. This is an easy case again to deal with, especially we have one that is an easy way to make the transfer correct, and there is another one which seems a little bit challenging, but inshallah, guys, I'm gonna share some basic information regarding the challenge of verb changes in particular and so on, right? Okay, so the first way, guys, to make this transfer from active, the transfer of passive statements from active to passive correct and successful, is very simply to follow the following for structure. First of all, we have it's. We put it at the very beginning. plus the passive construction. Passive construction here is basically, as we have learned, the verb to be in the same tense of the active verb, or the verb in the active voice. All right? Plus what? Plus the past participle of the main first verb that we have here. Okay, remember guys that, or note that, guys, that when it comes to passive statement, we should bear in mind that there are two basic clauses. The first one, or the introductory one, is very, very, very short, right? And so, limited, right? It consists basically of the subjects. Let's call it the first subjects, or the active, statement, plus, let's say, a verb, which, very similar to the reporting verbs. And I'm going to share a couple of verbs that are basically associated with impersonal passive. So this is the first introductory clause that you have. You got two subjects and a verb, a reporting verb. And then you have this relative clause. And after, you have another subject, which is going to be the second clause, and then another verb, right, which may take a certain form. It may consist of just the verb to be, or whatever auxiliary, in any kind of verb combination. We are going to deal with it, right, and see examples of transformations to know exactly what happens at the level of verb tense. Together, again, with the rest of the statement, okay, there will be no change as usual, right, with the rest. Be you have a prepositional phrase or whatever, there are no changes at that level. So guys, to make the transformation, this transfer, process correct and successful, we can follow the first step, the first suggestion. We write it at the very beginning of the statement, plus this passive construction, as I said, we'll understand very well when it comes to praxis. Plus what? Plus that clause. Plus that clause without any change at this time, okay? This is what makes the case or the, suggestion number one, an easy way to follow, right? It's easier for you to follow than the second, maybe suggestion, which seems a little bit challenging. Okay, so the second suggestion, guys, is you have the choice to start. Remember that I said we have two clauses. It means two subjects and we got two verbs. We can start with the subject number two, the second subject. It means the subject of the second clause that we have just after that, all right? And then again, plus the passive construction. I mean, the verb, again, we have to put it in the right form. And we'll see exactly the changes that occur at the level of the verb. It depends on, the form of the verb in the active voice. Plus the infinitive. You should always have an infinitive as you when it comes to impersonal passive, when we start basically with the second subjects. The case number one, right, we just need to add that clause, right, without any changes. But in the second case, we are talking about personal passive, right? We move it from impersonal to personal. Personal, why? Because we started with the second subject, with the subjects of the of that clause, right? That's what makes it personal. And then we'll have to, right? The infinitive. The first verb should be put, or auxiliary, or whatever should be put in the infinitive. And of course, we know your attention. We may have verb combination, right? So we got to pay attention to the whole patterns of the verb. Now let's come right now. So these are some common verbs that we use in the passive, in the impersonal passive. You may have think, people think that, people believe that. You may have say, people say that. These are the most common ones. Use it. Sorry. People report that, or the media report that. Know, consider, assume, propose, estimate, suggest, recommend, pretend, claim. So these are mostly verbs that we use in the impersonal passive, which actually weakens the strength, of the news in general, right? These are some kind of allegations. We don't have any proof whether the news are true or fake, right? It doesn't matter, guys. Let's move on right now to practice to understand very well. What happens, guys? Okay, so let's start with number one. We have here, they say that fish is good for the brain. This is our active voice statement. They say that fish is good for the brain. Again, we have to mark basic elements here, which are, as I say, the subjects basically. And we have the first subject and the first verb. This verb is an introductory, is a reporting verb, right? Thinking and seeing verbs and so on, right? All right, so, or verbs of perception, right, if you like, right? Think, believe, and so on, right? They say, this is the first subject and this is the first verb. Okay, this is the clause number one, as I noted before. And then you have that, right? What comes later, right? The relative clause, right? Consists of another clause, right? So we have here that fish. Fish here is the second subject. And is the verb to be here, right? Is the second verb, right? In the statement, right? In the whole, statement. All right? Good. Now, when we start, let's, apply the first rule or the first suggestion. It means it plus the passive construction. What do you mean by passive construction here? We have to refer to put the verb to be in the same tense of the verb, or the introductory or the reporting verb that we have here. The first verb, which is say. Say here is in the present simple. So very simply, I say it is. Okay? We say it is. Then what do you have there? You have, okay, let's put everything in blue here. Okay, as usual. We say it is. Plus what? To finish our passive construction, we have to put the main verb here, say, in the past participle as usual, so that we can talk about passive statement. So we see here, it is said. And then, as I said before, you need just plus the that clause without any change. This is the impersonal passive case. It is say that good, it is say that fish, right? That fish is good for the brain. Your attention, guys, right now. When we apply the first rule, it means it plus the passive construction. I mean the verb to be in the passive, in the active verb tense, plus the past participle of the main verb. The rest of the relative clause doesn't change. We keep it as it is. That clause without any change when we apply the first rule. That's why I said, guys, that if you are given such a case, I recommend you to just go using, right, or applying our first suggestion. This is easier for you, right, to make your transfer or transformation correct without any problems. Okay, what if right now we want to start with to apply the first rule, second rule, or the second suggestion, meaning to start with the second subject. Second subject here is fish, right? That's the first subject of the second statement. So if we start this way, again we have, no matter what the case is, we have again to put, as usual, the verb say, the verb to be, right, in the same tense of the active verb. We have say is in the present. So I say here the verb to be is, right? Fish here is uncountable singular, so I say is. Plus the past participle of the main verb here, the first verb say, we say said. Fish is said. Now, when we begin, when we apply the second suggestion, guys, that doesn't exist anymore. Right? We have to leave out, that, and make the changes that, later on, right? Basically, we use the infinitive later, right? And I would say fish is said. We have here the verb to be. Okay, so remember, right? We started with fish, right? Which is the second subjects. We forget about that. It shouldn't exist anymore there. And then the verb to be here is in the present simple. Now, based on the rule and the changes that occur at the level of the verb in the impersonal passive, when we apply the second suggestion, if you have a verb in the present simple, you should transform it into the infinitive with to, right? So we say fish is said, the verb infinitive of the verb to be with to becomes to be. We have is, this is the verb to be, or am or are, so the infinitive would be to be, right? Fish is said to be, and then we continue our statements without any problem. Is said to be good for the brain, all right? Okay, this is how it goes, guys. The process in general. The only challenge here, as we say, when we apply the second suggestion, is that there must be we should have some knowledge regarding the verb tense changes. Okay, and we'll come to that, inshallah. Great. We'll finish with the practice, and come, inshallah, great, to the to the last at the end of the video. I'm going to share information regarding a document, a very important document, regarding the changes that occur at the level of the verb when we move from impersonal to personal passive, right? Okay, making this transformation from active to passive. Okay, so all the statements that are suggested here, the second verb is just in the present simple. So just bear in mind right now, if you have present simple, so you have to use infinitive of the verb, or the given verb, the verb to be, or any other verb. Let's move to number 2, guys. Number 2, again, we have people. Again, let's determine some basic parts of speech. Basically, the first subjects, the first verb, the second subjects, and the second verb. We have here think is this the first verb. Then we have the second subjects we, and then we have the second verb is use. People think that we use a small percentage of our brain power. So we got to, if we want to follow the first suggestion, we say, as usual, you have here think. Most of the reporting verb, most of the time, the common statement in the impersonal passive, most of the reporting verbs comes in the come in the present simple, but not necessarily, of course. You may have any other tense, it doesn't matter. We just need to put the verb to be in the same form as the active verb. So we see here think is in the present simple, so the verb to be becomes it is, right? People think that, so it is, plus the past participle of the verb think, which is thought. Very good. So it is thought that, and then we finish our statement without any problem, right? Let me again change the color, right? It is thought that we use, right, without any change, a small percentage of our brain power. Here we go, guys. Of our brain power, guys. All right, sorry, guys. Here we go, yes. Now let's move on to the second choice, which requires more attention, guys. Okay, now we are supposed to start with the first, with the second subject, which is we, right? Okay, so again, we have here think. This is the our reporting verb here, or our introductive verb. So it's in the present simple, so we say we are. Right, the verb to be in the present simple with we say we are. Plus past participle of the verb think, we say we are thoughts. Plus what? What do we have here as we finish right now with our first passive, with our passive construction? We have plus 2, so we just need to add 2. Plus what? The infinitive of the verb that we have here. We have use, so we say to use. We are thought to use, and then we finish our statements without any problem. Okay, so let me just copy paste, right, to save some time. we are thought to use a small percentage of our brain power, right? Some space here. Very nice. Okay, so let's move to number 3, guys. Okay, let's have a little bit, right? Because the video gets longer, right? And gets longer, right? Yeah, we have here the, again, is the first subject, and we have here claim. This is the first verb. And then in the relative clause here, we have we is the second subject, and we have remember, right, is the second verb. They claim that we remember things we hear in our sleep. Okay, let's follow us, apply the first rule. Our first suggestion is very easy. So I say claim here is in the present simple. So I say is. It is claimed. All right? It is claimed. Very simply this way. Past participle of the verb claim. It is claimed that we remember. No change here. Right, in the first case, we remember things. We hear in our sleep. Here we go. We finished with the first suggestion. As I said, it's very easy to process. Number 2, guys. Now we are going to start with the second subject. So second subject here we have we. All right, so we have we. So as usual, right, we are going to use the verb to be in present simple, just like the active verb claim. So we see we are, and then we have the claim it, right? Okay, this is very easy, right? We are claim it, right? Now, right, we need to do without that and complete our statement using the infinitive and keep the same form. Or the verb combination. We need to use the infinitive. We're claim it too, right? We are claim it. Here we go, right? What do you have here, right? Things that we are claimed, right? And then we have the verb remember. So we say to remember very easily, right? We're claimed to remember things we hear in our sleep. Okay, so when it comes to the present simple, when the second verb is in the present simple, guys, as we said, it's very simple. Just put the verb that you have in the infinitive, which two plus the verb base. Okay, now let's move on to the number 4. Again, we have here people. First subjects, believe, first verb. And then we have here solving. This gerund is a noun. It's in, the subjects of the statement, the relative clause here. The solving puzzles. This is solving puzzles, right? Okay, so we have gerund plus the puzzles. Normally is the this combination, noun combination here is the subjects. Keeps. This is the verb, the second verb. Okay, as usual, let's move on. We say it. We have here believe is in the present simple, so we say it is. Believe it. It is believed that solving puzzles. It is believed that solving puzzles keeps, no change here, right? Keeps the brain active. Keeps our brain or the brain active. Okay, here we started with our second, right, subject, right? So it says solving puzzles, right? Solving here, this is the main, subjects here. So we say the verb to be should be put this way: is believed. Is believed, right? Plus the infinitive, right? We have here keep, right? So we say to keep. And we keep the verb keep here, right, in the base form, right? No s, no any addition at all, right? Sorry. So solving puzzles is believed to keep the brain or our brain, right, active. Let's move to number 5, guys. We have your experts as usual as the subjects. Have proved. As you notice, guys, as I noted before, this reporting verb or introductory verb that we have in an impersonal passive construction may take another maybe in another tense, not necessarily in the present simple. The common case or the frequent case is that it comes in the present simple, but there is no problem if it comes in another tense construction. We just need to follow the rule and put the verb to be in the same tense as the active verb, right? So this is the first the verb combination, right? And we have here sports here. This is the second subject, and the verb to be here is the second verb. As usual, we apply the first rule, right? We say it, and we have here have proved. This is present perfect. So the verb to be, guys, should be put in the present perfect. With respect to subject-verb agreements, we have at, we say has. We no longer say have. With it, we say has. She, he, she, it, we say has. So we say it has been. This is the verb to be first, should be put in the present perfect. Plus the verb, the main verb as it is in the past participle. It has been proved. That, without any change. That's close. That sports, guys, is good for health. Okay, very good. Full stop. Number 2, now if we start with the second subject, which is sports. So we got to add our passive construction again. We say sports has been proved. Plus what? Then we have here, we no longer add the relative here pronoun that. No, in the second case, when we apply the second rule or the second suggestion, we don't do that, right? Forget about that. So we think about the infinitive. We say to. Sport has been proved to. We have here the verb to be is, so it becomes in the infinitive. We say to be. Good, right, for health. You see how easier, right, is the transformation, guys? Good job, great. Let's move to the number 6 and the last example. It's right, or people as usual here is first subject, say is the verb number 1, and we have the exams, right? This is second subjects, and we have are, the verb to be again is the second verb. And let's start with the first suggestion, right? We say it, the verb to be here is the main verb here, active verb is say, so we say it is in the present simple, we say it is, plus past participle of the verb, guys, we say it is said. That, and then we continue, all right? In the first case, we have to, keep, let's say, the relative pronoun that, and the whole clause without any change. It is say that the exams, right, are disastrous. Okay, now what if we start with the exams? Okay, we have the exam series in the plural form. We have say is the present simple. So we say the verb to be should be the exams are said. And we have here the verb to be again are, so it becomes in the infinitive with you. We say to be. The exams are said to be disastrous. Let's just copy paste the word here. Okay, said to be disastrous. Okay, so that's it, guys. So this is how we deal with the impersonal passive, guys. Impersonal passive, when you are given a statement in the impersonal passive, people say that, people believe that, people assume that, people report that, or has reported that. So we have two choices. Either we follow the first structure, it plus the passive construction plus that clause without any change. This is the impersonal construction, the impersonal passive. Or we follow the second suggestion and begin with the second subjects, that is to say the subjects of the second clause of that clause, plus our passive construction again with respect to the verb form and the verb to be, plus to and the infinitive again with respect to any changes regarding the verb, right? Okay, and this second construction or second statement is referred to as personal passive when we start with the subject of the of that clause. As I promised you, right, let me share just before we close this session, let me share some changes that occur, example of changes that occur at the level of the verb, especially when we apply the second choice or the second rule. Here we go. So these are some changes, guys, that happen or that take place and occur when we move from impersonal passive from the active voice to the personal passive. We're talking about the personal passive. In personal, it's very easy. We say it is, say that, and then we finish. It is, believe it, that, and so we finish without any change in that clause. But when it comes to the personal passive, there are some changes that take place at the level of the verb. We have suggested all the statements, as I told you before, that I have suggested the second verb was in the present simple. So when we move from active, an example here, people say he is English. The personal passive will say he is said to be English. To be, it means we use the infinitive of the verb that you have. If you have to be, the verb to be, we say to be. You have go, we say to go. You have goes, we say to go. We have write, we say to write. The verb that you have should be put in the infinitive with you. If you have present continuous in the second verb, the present continuous should be what? Should be to be, right? To be plus a verb in, plus the verb and the ing. People think he is waiting for us now becomes he is thought. We started with he, the second subject. He is thought to be waiting, right? So to be plus verb and the ing, great. If you have maybe future, will, or going to, people expect that he will join the company soon. He will join. Becomes he is expected to join, right? Present, future becomes just like the present, as we have seen with the present simple. We turn, the verb into the infinitive with you. Infinitive with you. Okay? So we have the same thing here for the simple present and the future simple future too. If you have present passive, what do you mean by present passive? Is like this case. They say that many smartphones are stolen. Are here is present, and stolen is passive. That's why we call it present passive. So if you have this construction, the verb becomes, or the personal construction, passive construction becomes many smartphones are said. So the verb to be is kept as are said. We make the transformation at the first verb, at the level of first verb and the first verb as usual. But next, the verb to be should be in the infinitive. The first verb or auxiliary should be in the infinitive. To be plus the past participle of the verb, stolen as it is, right? Because we are in the present, passive construction here. To be stolen, right? Okay, so I have present passive continuous. Is being cooked. Is being, this is present, this is continuous. And then we have cooks, this is passive. So present passive continuous. It becomes dinner is thought to be. We got to put the verb to be in the infinitive plus being as it is, right, to indicate this progressive aspects, plus the past participle, guys, at the end, right? To be being cooked. If I have future passive, it means we have here will be plus past participle. Becomes what? To be, right? Remember the future becomes in the infinitive to be, plus we keep the verb in the passive form, raised, to be raised. In case we have present perfects, people think he has left. Present perfects becomes what? Becomes perfect infinitive or infinitive perfects, right? To have, the auxiliary to have should be put in the infinitive with you. To have plus the past participle of the verb as it is, to have left. Present perfect continuous, they know she has been working. Has been, this is present perfect and in working continuous, right? So becomes what? She is known to have, right? The first verb again should be in the infinitive, to have been working. So guys, in general, we have to keep the second verb as it is in the same form. The only change is that, the first, verb that comes at first, like an auxiliary, for instance, to be, to have, or whatever, should be put in the infinitive, right? And then we keep the same construction, be it a perfect construction or perfect continuous or whatever, right? Let's see the past perfects. We have here, for instance, say that he had killed. Becomes what? To have killed. Becomes in the, just like the present perfect, right? But the first verb should be in the infinitive, right? Okay. Past perfect continuous, had been planning. To have becomes to have been planning, right? To have, right? The infinitive of the verb, to have here, or the auxiliary, being, and then we put the verb as it is, right, in the continuous form. Past simple. If you have past simple, there is no other way to indicate the past except by turning the past simple into the present perfect. So we have people say that he got married, or he was married, yes, or he has married, right? Okay, this is past, or that he got married rather, right? This is the past simple. He got. The verb here, got, is in the present, is in the past simple. Becomes what? To have got. Becomes present perfect. Simple past becomes present perfect. Past continuous, guys. They say he was studying. Was studying. This is past continuous. Was or were plus the verb in the continuous form. Becomes what? To have been studying, right? Okay, becomes present perfect. Like just like present perfect continuous, right? To have plus being plus the verb in the continuous aspect. To indicate the past, we got to use the past, the perfect tense, right, together with the verb in the main verb in the continuous form. The last case here, past passive. I have the past passive. For instance, there are reports that 2 people were injured. Were, this is the past simple of the verb, plus injured here, this is the past participle. That's why we call it past passive, right? So this past passive becomes what? 2 people are reported to have been. Becomes perfect, we use the perfect like the present perfect, plus the past participle of the verb. Infinitive, right? Perfect plus the past participle of the main verb. So guys, this is how we deal with the transformation of an impersonal passive using or applying, to suggestions or to constructions and structures. I hope the lesson is clear enough, guys, and I wish you good luck in your preparation career. And that's it for today, and see you inshallah in another practice session, inshallah. Goodbye.